amazing what we as people can do. There's always been someone there to tell us how to deal with a failure, and the steps go as follows. You fall short, you pick yourself back up, and you make yourself a better person. But no one's ever been there to tell us what to do after we succeed. No one's ever been there to encourage us after success has entered our life. I, for a fact, have no idea how to. But this summer, I met someone who did. His name is Trigby. Now, when I met my comrade in Washington, D.C. this summer, I knew I'd met a unique individual. He was always willing to talk, very outgoing, and always anxious to meet someone new. But Trigby had quite a story, one that I want to share with you. As I said before, Trigby was a unique individual. Your typical high school student with a slight twist. Yes, he was involved in at least one sport. Yes, he was in groups such as National Honor Society and the FFA. And he at least tried to get decent grades. But this is where his normality ceased. He was not part of one group. That's not what he desired. He wanted to be a part of everyone's group. Also, he'd moved from an 8th grade class of 4 into a freshman class of 60, so he was the new kid on the block. And not to mention, he lived on a ranch, and every time he was home, he was expected to work. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it did take away from his social time with his friends. Since his freshman year, he had one goal in mind, and that was to be a state FFA officer. Now, if you knew Trigby, you'd know that even though he had a really good shot at being an officer, it didn't stop him from being a little stinker at different FFA events. Trigby had this keen way of getting groups all sorts of excited and rambunctious, but his problem was knowing when to be loud and excited and when to be quiet and professional. This would get him into trouble sometimes. Not huge trouble, but let's just say he had to butt write his name many times during his FFA career. Back to the story. This is when Trigby's senior year came around. The minute that application was released, he had a copy of it. He worked hard on that application, making sure every piece of grammar was correct and that it flowed smoothly. He went to many mock interviews and prepared very hard to get this state office. And no matter who he talked to, they all said he was a shoo-in. This changed his whole mentality to running. At last, convention had arrived, and he went into every interview confident that he would receive an office on election day. In fact, he was too confident. Finally, that last day had arrived, and the new officers were to be announced. The candidates circled up in the back of the room, and the first office was announced. It wasn't him, but that was okay. That's not the office he wanted in. Second office, third office, fourth office, fifth office. He still remained in the back of the room. The last 3 candidates were called to stage, and the emotional-filled kids ran and got on stage with their new team. And Trigby remained in the back of the room. Heart not broken, more like shattered. As his advisor comforted him, he watched as 8 of his friends were going to lead the association that year. His dreams had been beaten, battered, and crushed. 10 months after that day, here he sits in an empty lecture hall, contemplating whether or not he can go through the emotional stress again. He talked to his parents, his advisor, many different advisors, past state officers, seeing whether he should pursue his dream or just give up and go on with his life as a college student. The last person he talked to was just a recent past state officer, and his response was, Trigby, would you rather say you ran and didn't get it, or do you wish you would have run? This motivated him and made him put forth a valiant effort to run for that office. And again, convention had arrived, and again, going into interviews. This time, he went in with a completely different mentality. He left everything on the table, poured his heart and soul into every interview. Again, the last day had arrived, and the officers were to be announced. With every name that was announced, my friend's heart sank lower and lower. And he was sure that history had repeated itself. But then, the second to last office was announced, and Trigby's name was called. He ran to the stage and joined his new officer team, ready to start the new year. His goal had been met, end of story. Right? This is what makes Trigby unique. The person he had become since his senior year in high school to now was a drastic change. He went from a cocky individual that was sure he would always succeed to a humble person who knew that failure could happen at any time. He learned to respect people who had had failure enter their lives and made it his goal to always help other people. Whether it was a friend just talking about normal problems or helping someone less fortunate on the street, Trigby was there. I was fortunate enough to see one of these events of Trigby helping others. Now, when most of us go to Washington, D.C., we go to monuments and museums and all the normal stuff. Not Trigby. Not at first, anyway. First, he went to a farmer's market and filled his backpack with the food from the local cellar. He then proceeded to give it away every chance he got. At one point, we were walking to the metro station, and here sat a homeless man by himself selling shoes for 25 cents. Trigby sat next to the man and gave him peaches, squash, and carrots, and then proceeded to sit there and talk with the man. This image has stayed with me even to this day. The image of someone who accomplished so much, helping someone in need, and not only helping them, getting to know them. At the end of his trip, his backpack had been emptied, all his food given away, and he boarded his plane home, leaving an impact on the people he helped and the people that saw his actions. There are good ways and bad ways to do it. We can brag about it because we've succeeded and they have not. Or we can just shrug our shoulders and say, well, I've done enough. But there is a third option, though. Trigby showed me this option. The option to keep on succeeding and keep on doing better and making things better in our eyes and stepping up your best. Planting potential, harvesting success. That has been our motto as a state association this past year. No matter whether you're a freshman just starting out your FFA career, a senior graduating going on to something bigger, or advisors just trying to make a difference. We all have the ability to plant our potential and harvest our success. The challenge is to keep planting a new crop of potential and to harvest success non-stop. We can all learn something from Trigby, and that's to keep on succeeding and to continue on by doing great things and making things better in our eyes. Montana FFA, I have complete and utter faith that you and I can do this. We can keep making things better. We can keep doing things better and making this world better. Let's all accept the challenge and step up our best.
When you got up on stage and sang International Harvester, the year that nobody wanted to hear that song ever again. Then I saw you in the hot box and Jackie introduced us and I was kind of like, oh boy, I don't know if I can deal with this kid. Oh boy. But, you know, we got elected on a team together and, you know, you were the first person on the team I trusted. You were the first person I went to if I had a problem for anything. And you were our Dr. Phil on the team, and I will never, ever forget, he calls me Beanstalk and I call him Hobbit. He was sitting in a hotel and he called me after he'd seen Lord of the Rings for the first time in a real long time, and he's like, I do not look like him! So you meant so much to our team, and you're such a great friend, and I know that we will probably be friends for a very long time. And you put up with us girls very well. I will give you that. No other guy could have dealt with us. Now, a little birdie told me that some of the Conrad girls had something for you. You see, Adam wanted a face cake, so that was what he got. He got a cake with his face on it. The Conrad girls thought that would be pretty sweet to give him. So you got your face cake. Montana FFA, your 2000